Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be looking at isometric labs number 9 and 10 in OnShape. So let's go. Here we have the image for isometric lab number 9. What we're going to be doing is laying this out using the surface plane in which we see the object from. Looking at this shape here, I identify this as a capital letter I, which means to me it's being created from the right side view. So let's go into OnShape and create a right side view and build this capital letter I. Starting from the Documents tab, we're going to click the Create button, choose Document. We're going to name this Isometric Block number 9. Once the workspace has been created, we can use the Sketch tool in the ribbon to create a sketch on the right side plane. Rotate our Cartesian cube to the right side, and from here we'll begin creating our 2-point rectangles. You can, if you would like to, turn the visibility of the front plane and the top plane off by clicking on the little eyeball symbol next to them over here in the Features menu. Once I've got those cleaned up, I can now begin by creating my corner rectangles, starting at the bottom with a rectangle that is 3 inches in width and 1 inch in height. From here, I'm going to place a second rectangle on top of the first one. We're going to need to use size and location dimensions for this. The size dimension for the center part of the capital letter I is 2 squares tall and 1 square wide, according to the image in the Google Doc. So we're going to create the height for block number 2 to be 2 inches and the width for block number 2 to be 1 inch. We're also going to have to use a location dimension. Don't forget these location dimensions. They are critical to making sure that your object turns out perfect. We're going to place the location dimension from the left vertical line of our second rectangle to the left vertical line of our first rectangle. Here you'll see it puts the distance dimension in between those two lines. This should be dropped and changed to a 1. Now that the second rectangle has been centered over the first one, we can finish up by creating the last rectangle. What I like to do is get in line with the corner point for this second rectangle at the top. And as I drag my mouse away without clicking, as I begin to drag my mouse away, you'll see these dotted lines that show up. These are intersection points. As I was talking to you in previous videos about your objects being able to snap into place, these intersection points can also be used to help align your shapes so that they are perfectly in line with other lines or points that exist on the screen. Now, if I start on this corner point and begin to move away, but then I go down to the lower corner point and do the same thing, what you'll notice is the dotted lines that showed up first will come back when I'm perfectly in line with that object. This saves us a ton of time having to create extra geometry as well as extra location dimensions. So once I've gotten these 2 little dashed orange lines that show up, I know that I'm now at the exact corner point I need to be to mirror the bottom rectangle. So I can start my rectangle here, draw it across, make it whatever size I want, because now as I come back to the dimension tool, it's going to change the dimensions of the object to fit the locked corner point I started with. Top of the block should be dimensioned to 3, the side of the block will get dimensioned to 1, and our object is now complete. Taking a quick look back at the isometric block in the Google Doc, you'll notice that it does take 2 squares to make this block once extruded. So we can now finish this sketch, choose the extrusion tool, rotate into isometric view, and select the areas we want to extrude, and then change the extrusion depth from 1 to, as we just said, 2. That's it for isometric block number 9. Go ahead and share that with me once you get it complete, and then we can move on to isometric block number 10. I'm going to do that right now in this video, just so that we don't have to go into a second video. Isometric block number 10. Back in the Google Doc, if I take a look at isometric block number 10 lab, you'll see that isometric block number 10 is also an object that's going to be created from the right side view. To me, when I view this object, it looks like almost like a house with a square roof on it. So because I'm seeing it from the right-hand side here as a little house shape or an upside down letter Y, that's how I'm going to create this object. So we're going to start our new document back into OnShape, Documents, Create create a new document, name this one isometric block number 10. I'm going to use the workspace I have in front of me to create a new sketch plane on the right plane. So using the sketch tool in the ribbon, select the right side plane, uncheck visibility of the top and front views, and use your Cartesian cube to rotate to a perpendicular visual view. Back to isometric block number 10. I want to make sure that I count the squares correctly so that I can build this object the way it's supposed to be built. Looking at the upside down letter Y here, it looks like I have 3 squares that make up the height of the side walls, 3 squares that make up the width of the ceiling area, and then 1 square on the top in the very middle of that ceiling area to finish off that square roof-like structure. So back into OnShape, I'm going to create a rectangle. Anywhere here on the left-hand side, I'm just going to start with a single rectangle. I'm going to dimension this rectangle to 3 inches tall. I'm going to add a width for this rectangle of 1. And then I'm going to begin by placing a second rectangle in the upper left-hand corner of this first rectangle and drawing that across. I'm going to dimension that roof-like rectangle to be 1 inch in height, 3 inches in width, and then add my third rectangle for the right-hand side from the upper right corner point of the second rectangle. Draw this down. Use the dimension tool to make the height of this rectangle 3, the width of this rectangle 1, and the 2 walls and ceiling area are complete. Lastly, we have to put a roof-like structure on top of this, which is a single 1x1 square. Easy to do here because we have 2 locking points already. So if I go to my 2-point rectangle or my corner rectangle tool in OnShape, I can begin at the upper right-hand corner point of our very first rectangle. Draw the rectangle from here. Careful not to lock it into an area where you don't want it. If you look closely at what's happening here on my screen, it is locking into this center point above my object. If I do that, I will not be able to change the dimensions. So I don't want to do that. What I'm going to do instead is just drastically overcreate this object. Now I can use the dimension tool to reduce it back. Placing a dimension on the top line, making this 1 inch, and a dimension on the right side line, making this 1 inch. Done with the sketch, I'll finish that green check mark. I can go rotate back to my isometric view, use the extrusion tool and double check in my Google document the depth of the extrusion. Counting the squares here, I see that there are 3. So back in OnShape, I'm going to select all the areas I want to extrude, which is each of the individual squares as they highlight. Change the extrusion depth to 3, hit enter, click the green check mark, uncheck the visibility of the right work plane just to clean up the area, and color my object if I wish. If I do not, I can leave it the way it is. This object is complete. Make sure that you've rotated into isometric view, click that share button, and isometric block number 10 is done. 2 isometrics here for today, quick and easy. Take a few minutes to go through these and make sure that you're following the dimension standards correctly. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe, guys. That's how you get notifications that these videos have been posted so that you can get these labs complete. Thanks for watching.